Threads on telescopes. This is a really tricky subject because quite often you end up needing to replace a nut or a bolt on something to do with your telescope. And how do you know what the thread size is? I mean, how do I know what size that is, for example, or that, for example? Now this is quite tricky because, as you can see on some mounts, now this one is from Skywatcher, it's very easy to actually bend the bolt when it's in there, and this one's actually bent quite badly, and it's going to have to be drilled out or cut off here and then drilled out so that it can be fixed. This part is actually reusable, but this isn't, so I'm going to have to cut it off and probably drill it out or use a small saw to cut it off somehow. So how do you find out different threads? So the first thing you need to do is find a thread chart. Now, thread charts, like this one for example, you can find these on the internet. If you Google thread charts, you will find all of the different thread types on the internet, and you can just take a screen grab like I did with this, and this will give you an overview. Now this isn't a complete thread chart, this is just very common threads, and there are loads. There's obviously metric and imperial, there's British, there's American standards. They're all perfectly valid, and there isn't one that's better than the other. But the really tricky thing is, how on earth do you know which thread to go for? The first thing you need to get is a set of vernier calipers like these. Now these can range from being really cheap for about £10 and to being a bit more expensive like these ones. And you do not need, for basic thread measurement, a really expensive one. You can get away with a really cheap one like these. These are absolutely fine and they're really good. The next thing you need, now these are fascinating. This is a thread gauge, and if you look carefully here, one side says metric and the other one says Whitworth. And when you unfold these, you get literally loads of different, what look like combs, but they're actually different threads. And you can fold all of these out, and these are basically measuring the threads. And I'll show you in a moment how you use a thread gauge like this. Now they don't just come in this sort, they can also come in circular ones like these. And you can see it's got serrated edges across there. And these are all the different threads that we have. And these ones are really good because they also can measure the diameter of the screw that you're actually measuring as well. So what we're going to do now, I've got a set of screws here, and I've cheated. I know what the threads are on these because I've measured them already. But I'm going to go through the whole exercise. So I've got, these are all Skywatcher threads from an EQ5 Pro. So that's the big one there. We've got a longer one, but it's slightly narrower, short one there, and I've got one with a handle there. So how do you measure this? So the first thing we need to do is find out the diameter. So on my vernier calipers, I'm going to set it to millimeters, so I'm in millimeters now, and let's choose this really big chunky one here. So the first thing I need to do is measure the diameter. So all you have to do is just go like that, and it says the diameter there is 9.75. So then what we have to do is get our thread gauge, and we can then measure the thread itself. So what you have to do is literally offer up the thread gauge to the threads on this, and when it fits, you know it's right. Now that one won't fit, that one won't fit. Let's see about this one. Oh, there we go. Right, so that one fits perfectly in there. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see that that fits absolutely perfectly. And if you hold it up to the light when you're doing this, you'll actually see that you could rotate the thread and it will not show any light through. So I know that that's the correct thread pitch. And if I read the number off there, it says 1.5. So we know that our measurement of this thread, the diameter was 9.74 and 1.5. So we now go to our thread chart. And the first thing we have to do is find the thread pitch, because the thread pitch is listed and we said it was 1.5. So I go down to 1.5 and then it says the major diameter, which is the outside diameter, is 10. Now I think that when we measure this, again, 9.74, if we round that up to 10, so we say that that's 10, and we know that the thread pitch was 1.5, so that particular thread there is an M10. So if I was to go and replace this at any point, all I have to look for is an M10 bolt, and that will fit. It's as simple as that. So let's have a go with this one. Now this one, you can probably see, is already bent, and I bent it back. But I can't use this because the thread is too badly damaged. So let's measure this one. So I'll 0 this one. We're going again. Now this one is 7.78. 7.78 or 8 for the diameter. And I'm now going to find the thread pitch for it. So it's probably going to be one of these ones. Okay, so it's probably, I don't think those ones are going to work. Let's have a go. No, it won't fit. No, doesn't fit. There we go. So that one there says 1.25. So we know that the diameter is just shy of 8 millimeters. The thread pitch is 1.25. So let's go down here. So our thread pitch on here is 1.25, and the overall diameter, the major diameter, is 8 millimeters. Therefore, it is an M8. So that is an M8. And it just so happens that on an EQ5 Pro, the major thread adjusting is done with an M10, and then the locking one is an M8. So that's how they're measured. Now this one is a tiny little one, and again, this is the left-right movement on a Skywatcher mount, so it would screw into there. And let's see if we can measure this one. So let's find out the diameter first. So 5.77, so basically 6 millimeters on that. And the actual thread pitch. So I'll try this one first. No, 0.9 won't fit. So 1.0. There you go, 1.0 is spot on. You should hopefully be able to see that. So 1.0, and that thread fits perfectly on the thread gauge. So we know that it's 6 millimeters, so going down to 6, and the thread pitch is 1. So that is telling us it's an M6. Now you can do this with any thread, you really can, and some of them get so tiny, I mean really, really tiny threads. But it's really useful to have a couple of different thread gauges, some imperial ones, some metric ones. It's really useful to have a set of vernier calipers. Then you can literally find out any thread you want by measuring the diameter and then the thread pitch, and then downloading off the internet a thread chart. So that's how you identify the threads. I hope that was useful. I've seen on the internet some people asking how you measure threads, and I thought that might be useful just to help people with trying to gauge which thread that they need to buy if they're replacing one. Like and subscribe if you can, it really helps the channel, and I really appreciate your support with all this so we can make more videos like this. Take care everybody, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.